Hello guys, my name is Dan Johnson and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing the first of Jodie's final 3 specials for 2022. So it's also the first video of the year, so Happy New Year everyone. I hope this year is going to be really good and we're going to get some really good Doctor Who specials out of it. Before I watched this, I wasn't particularly excited for either of the Daleks. I mean, I was excited because it was Doctor Who and we were going to get another episode of Doctor Who, but I was sad that we were only getting 3 this year. But I actually did quite enjoy it. I'm going to explain it more as I go through. If you're not aware, during all of Flux, I had a review system where everything had subtitles. And for the most part, I tried to keep my reviews concise by having these subtitles and placing my thoughts into categories. Why did I stumble on that word? Those categories were things like plot, characters, monsters, highlights, lowlights, negatives, and feel. So, let's begin. The Doctor has reset the TARDIS after Flux. The things generating extra doors, it's been doing it throughout the entirety of Flux, and I kind of wondered what was up with that. It turns out it's just a loose end that they're just wrapping up now. There was no grand plan as I originally predicted, but they have landed at this place called Elf Storage, which is like a storage centre. Supposedly it says self-storage, but the S fell off. I think that might have been a joke, but honestly I can't tell the difference anymore. The Daleks have taken notice that the TARDIS is generating a lot of energy, I suppose, and have decided to go and check it out. The TARDIS has then generated a type of time loop around them and the people currently inhabiting the self-storage facility. As time loop stories go, I was concerned it was going to get incredibly repetitive, that I would be bored by it. But luckily, I wasn't. I don't know whether I was excited to see what was going to happen and what the plan was, and maybe that's why I was fully invested this time. But I think, for the most part, this was a really well put together time episode. By the way, I'd like to point out at this moment that this Jeff guy, I honestly thought was going to appear. They made so many references and notes of who this Jeff guy was. I thought he must be behind this. Like, he's got some importance here. We're going to get another Spy Master reveal or something. No, he was just a background character. But we included Carl from that The Woman Who Fell to Earth. We did put him in there just for you. Sorry, I got a bit sidetracked. Where was it? Time loops. And I think for the most part the time loop plotline worked quite well because it had lots of little narrative bits that were sewn in throughout it that I think made it work, like the mother calling and things like that. Whatever Jeff was doing, I think worked quite well. For the dynamic between the Doctor and companions, I've really enjoyed the dynamic between the 3 of them. This whole love triangle, that would be an interesting episode. This whole love romance between Yaz and the Doctor is something that personally I'm not invested in that much. I think that I've seen it, and I've seen it quite a few times with Rose and then Martha. It's not something that I'd really want to see again because I feel like it's a bit of a repeat. But if you're into that, it's there for you. And I think it's handled pretty well, but we'll have to see how it turns out. I think you've kind of got the element of devotion from the other side, and maybe it reciprocated by the Doctor, but whether she's ever going to act on it, I think might be an interesting change to the established idea of the companions falling in love with the Doctor. Because, I mean, the 10th Doctor didn't really hold back or resist that. I wonder whether Jodie, being a wiser Doctor now, will actually go into that, because David Tennant had that whole thing of being the romantic and the hero and all that. The hero would always get the girl and things like that. I wonder whether Jodie, being a little bit more of a chaotic, whimsical Doctor, would be really fussed about that kind of stuff and go in for a relationship. But maybe I'm thinking too much about Tasman, but still. And then obviously there's Dan, who I've said I've really liked, and I've liked all of Flux, even though I felt like he was kind of wasted for some of it. I think he's doing a really good job here. He's got the sort of he's the glue holding the 2 of them together, but he's also got some wise advice, and he's got the banter with the Az, but he's also got this kind of motherly, fathery sort of relationship with her, which I quite like. And it's an interesting dynamic, something that could have happened with Graham but just didn't quite work out between the two of them. As for side characters, I think that Nick and Sarah were nice little additions to the cast this time. At first I thought Aisling Bea's character was a little bit annoying, but I don't think she was annoying. I think she was just independent. I think that the idea that somebody would go against the Doctor is something that has not been done in this era, and I was quite happy that there was that introduced. I mean, it faded away quicker than I could blink, but still. Oh, and I did get kind of worried when they started painting out Nick as a bit of a perv for a minute. I thought, oh god, where are they going with this? Over the last couple of years, we've had many Dalek stories and many Dalek appearances on Big Finish and television, obviously, with these trilogy things. As a trilogy, I think that they don't work as a trilogy, but I think that might have been something that the fans sort of created instead of something Chibnall signed up for himself. But as Daleks, as a Dalek story, they were fine. They could have easily been replaced with any other villain. Like, you could have had Cybermen chasing them, or something original, but Daleks in this story, perfectly fine. I like the designs, I like the miniguns, and I found them quite threatening, but other than that, not much else can be said. I mean, there is the whole argument that they can't fire. They've got, like, minigun, Gatling gun, rather, attachments, and they're firing off so many shots, yet at the same time they're completely missing them. I mean, there's a shot when Aisling B runs away and she sort of holds by the door for whatever reason, and it feels like a long time. It probably wasn't in reality, but the shots are just going like that, like all around her. And in terms of highlights and lowlights, I think my highlight would be the premise of the time loop. I think that was really cool. And the sort of ticking clock against that, I think, added a nice element to the episode. And another one, if I had to pick one, is also the speech. I don't think it sort of lives up to a lot of other Doctor speeches. I mean, I'm trying to think of one off the top of my head. Like, take the Zygon inversion speech. It has nothing on that, but I thought that as a moment, as a scene, I thought that was really, really cool. I think in terms of lowlights, I would have to go with the scene in which Aisling B is sort of barking at Nick about how no one wants him here, he's a creep and all that. I just felt like that was a bit unnecessary, especially when Chibnall is knowingly going to set them up into a relationship later on in the story. I just felt like that was a very bizarre thing to include. And then, he goes and kills himself, basically. He purposely puts himself into the line of fire because she said that to him. I think that was a really, really dark moment that I think could have worked really well if they had a conversation about it, or there was some fallout from it. I mean, she openly says how much she dislikes him for coming there, for appearing here so that she has to come and work here. And he sacrifices himself because of how it makes him feel like it was his fault for bringing her into this situation. There should have at least been a really honest conversation between it. And I think it was weird of Chibnall to include that scene and then to set them up into a relationship. There was also this weird line that I thought was worded weirdly, or I thought was setting up something that we didn't know, and she knew something that we didn't know, which was, of course, that this Nick guy never makes it past 5-2. So she was suggesting that once they hit 5-2, he wasn't going to appear again. That this was him dead. But that wasn't the case. Was that like a left-in thing from a previous script? Like, where did that come from? But even though this is not what the line's saying, but it may have been worded wrong, as I said, maybe she meant that he normally gets killed first or the quickest, and if he gets killed the quickest, then she was worried about him not surviving this round, and if she doesn't survive this round and they escape, he will die. I don't know. Did anyone else notice this, or was it just me? One little niggle that I have about the episode in terms of negative would be the idea that the deaths cheapened it. Because the story's a time loop, I think that them dying over and over again was bound to happen within the story, but my annoyance with it is that them going round in circles, dying over and over again, meant that their deaths meant nothing. I mean, I could have looked down and heard gunfire or whatever and not be interested, because I know that if they're going to get shot, then the time loop just continues. I know that the final plan is the only plan that's going to succeed because it's a time loop episode. But that wasn't necessarily an issue with the episode or how it was written, but an issue with the narrative device it was using. And then finally, the feel of the episode. For me, this was a really enjoyable story. I enjoyed the elements of New Year's that is added, the ticking clock, the time loop I thought was well handled. Obviously, with a rewatch or multiple rewatches, it may lose that sort of element. But as of now, I really enjoyed it. I'm excited for the next episode. Obviously, I did scream at the top of my lungs, Sea Devils. But did you enjoy tonight's episode? Are you excited for the next one, which is obviously the Sea Devils? It's called Legend of the Sea Devils, I believe. It does sound very, very cool. But until then, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. Just occurred to me, there will be videos in between that, by the way. This is not it. I've got lots of interesting videos. I even wear a suit in the next one. It's really exciting. But until then, thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.